All right. Hello and welcome back to part 4 of the Your Next 100K training series. Congratulations for making it this far, and you are another step closer to replacing your full-time corporate income with your business revenue, and that is something to celebrate. So, what we are going to talk about today really is we're going to talk today's training is more around the numbers, around the math, and really the practicality side of building a solid foundation for your business. Throughout the training series, what I have already, really show you, and hopefully you are grasping that concept and really starting to shift the way you see yourself and start making decision from a new identity. But most importantly, also, what I really want to highlight in this training is just to help you see the pathway and a bigger picture, right? Because I think that what most people do is they start with the creator influencer model because of what we see, because of how, like, that is basically what we are exposed with daily. And here's the truth. Let's start with the truth that most people in the online business world don't want to hear is that your Instagram likes is not going to pay your rent. Your reach is not going to pay your mortgage. And your follower count doesn't guarantee your payroll. And yet, almost every creative entrepreneur, coach, and expert that I've met is building their business on this myth that visibility equals viability, right? They are caught in what I like to call the creator trap, mistaking attention for equity, engagement, for revenue, and content as a business model. And I have watched influencers with hundreds and thousands of followers panic when the brand deals dried up. And I've seen creators burn out posting daily only to realize their audience love their content but won't pay for the expertise. And a big part of this is because you have trained and created your audience to consume, not to commit and buy from you. And I've also mentored consultants with zero Instagram presence, pulled in high 4 or 5 figures a month in predictable retainers because they built their business on consulting as a foundation instead of algorithm. And the point I really want to come across is the creator influencer model doesn't pay your rent. Consulting does, right? And the most successful creators that I know have a product, have a business, and they definitely have a system and a team that get it going. So if you want your next 100K, the kind of revenue that is predictable, bankable, and scalable in a way that you can actually replace your full-time income, because if you're watching this, what I am guessing is you're likely sitting on a pretty highly paid income and you're wondering what's next. You need to stop playing the content game and start building a consulting foundation. And I also want to add a caveat and a longer term vision is it doesn't mean content does not matter. It doesn't mean, having a personal brand doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that having a funnel does not matter. But with what I say at the start of this, your goal is to replace your full-time income with your business revenue. And your goal is to build financial stability. And I really want to get that through because I was in an AI event a couple of weeks ago and I met an incredible lady, and she has just quit her role as a product manager, right? She has just quit her role as a product manager, and she has, I believe that she has built a startup and is a founder of a company, and she's kind of in this process of like figuring it out. And I believe that that's what a lot of you who are watching are similar. And that was where I was when I decide to walk away from an equity offer and to go all in with my business instead. And I was like, so what are you doing right now? And her answer was like, I'm just really trying to figure out what's next. And what she was doing, she was making YouTube videos and she was making TikTok videos. And so I asked her, what is it that you're making? And her answer was, well, I'm just documenting my life. I'm just seeing where this goes. So there was no direction, there's no vision. There is no strategy of what do you actually want to do with this content, right? So content is a word that I feel like we are all just so, I don't know, like we're just like had it, right? But if you are someone who's called to write, to speak, to lead, content is your intellectual property. Content is a form of asset for you. Content is your product. So there really is a lot of thought process. There is a lot of psychology that goes behind it, like that requires like layered of strategic thinking and systematic thinking behind why you create your content. And, you know, how I know this is because I had spent 6 years blogging for free. And I did that in my early 20s, right? So it was more of a creative expression um, hobby for me. And it did give me a lot of skills that allow me to progress through my career at an exponential rate when many people say it's impossible. And so there is a trade off. And I think that it's okay if that genuinely is your goal at the moment, right? If your sole goal is just for creative expression and you have your financial side of things down pat, by all means, maybe you don't even need to listen to this video and this training. But if it's not, it is extremely important for you to ask yourself and to be intentional with where you are spending your time. And this training is going to show you what are the, top mistakes inside the creator trap. So we spoke about, at the start of this training series, we spoke about the employee trap, where you're still having the employee mindset where you're trading time for money. And then the creator trap really is you think you're working on something. You're putting all your effort, all your energy into learning content, into learning funnel, into learning digital marketing without having a roadmap, without having a solid foundation that allows you to generate predictable revenue and the resources to grow that content, to grow your audience, to grow your brand, right? So what it ends up happening is it would end up becoming a very expensive hobby for you. And how I define a highly, very expensive hobby is if you really keep track of the time you spend in creating content, in putting things out there. And if you can't have a prediction or a forecast of the return of the time spent, that's a hobby. When you are spending 1,000 hours making $1,000, your hourly rate would be $1 per hour. And I want to put the caveat to that is when you are growing your business, and building the systems and infrastructure for your business, it is going to be a period of time where the time you put in will be more than what you're getting paid. But the difference of that is when you're doing that intentionally, when you actually have a long-term plan and strategy, and you're working on the very intention that this would compound into an asset. But with most of the early stage creative entrepreneurs, especially for the powerful women who are sitting on 100K unicorn factor or your skills from corporate, go straight to this creator trap, because the creator trap is very seductive. And it looks like freedom, but it's actually a hamster wheel in disguise. It gives you these dopamine hit. it gives you this false sense of productivity, like you're doing something. And then the next thing you realize, you're like, all right, with everything that I've created in the past year, what did I create? Did I literally just put it into an algorithm black hole that has no return after that 24 hours or after that 1 hour? So that's a very important thing for you to catch yourself. It's great. I think having a personal brand, which we'll talk about later in this training, is that having that running parallel is very important, because you do want, if freedom is your end goal, it's your long-term vision, and also making, wanting to reach the people and impact that you have, you do want to have a brand and a content that is able to replicate and multiply without you. But that's step 20. That is step 20. And in an age where we are trying to really, hack everything without a solid foundation, and what I like to call the steroid effect is that you look like you have these muscles, but it's not from you actually building it day by day, but actually taking a steroid. And so you look like you're beefed up, but it's not solid muscle. So is your business. If you expand and you build it without the right order of operations, it's going to collapse. It is going to collapse one day, and we do not want that. So my aim for you is really to build a foundation that could hold you for any growth in the years to come. And secondly, it's to make sure that you are in business, that you exist, to do that very thing that God has called you to do. So if you agree with that, can I get an amen? That yes, to bring that back down to earth. And I think it's very necessary as visionary. And now, now that I have really matured into entrepreneurship and really made a lot of mistakes along the way, and, being in the game for the past 7 years, is that one thing that I'm really grateful for, even though I didn't like my corporate experience, is to have that real life training with businesses, and having restructuring failing $1 million companies as my first job has really taught me a lot about business. And, it's not that complicated. Business is not that complicated. If you are a creative and highly spiritual woman, sometimes we tend to over spiritualize our business. And, the whole point of this training series is to make business trainings, to make ideas, to bring the practicality of you actually executing on what you're here to do. So let's talk about the creator trap and why most experts stay broke. So the first one is choosing vanity over value. And this is something that might be happening, like a tape playing in the background. And this is something that I still have to catch myself, because I started out online as an influencer. So, really it's all about how many likes you want and how many, all the vanity metrics, that it doesn't really bring revenue, and it doesn't actually really add real value. So what some people say, it's monopoly money. It's monopoly money that it's not growing your revenue. And remember what we spoke at the start of this. If you're watching this training series, your goal is to replace your high corporate salary and full-time income with your business revenue without working more hours. And when you are in the creator's trap, what you do is you chase vanity metrics, you chase views, you chase likes, you chase shares, the dopamine spike, pretend, oh my God, I created a great piece of content. But here's the reality. 1 million impression won't pay you if you can't convert trust into a business solution, right? Vanity is very expensive and value pays. And here is something that I really want to challenge you. Or if that is really the business model that you want to go with, go for it. Now, I know that Facebook, Instagram, or even TikTok is paying you they started having this creator program where they pay buy the views or some sort of things like that. That is a form of revenue stream. But here is the thing, right? What that is to me, it's like a slot machine in a casino. You don't know how the algorithm is going to function. And if you really want to reverse engineer and really study behind it, like there's a way of system, there's a certain type of content that you can do to gamify the system. And if that's what you want to do, if that's what you're called to do, if that's the most least resistance and the way that makes sense for you, go for it. But most of the other 99.99% of you who are watching this training, that's probably not it for you. But then your actions, you chasing audience, building the audience, building all of this, hoping that the algorithm would take off, putting, like this PDF because you see someone else is doing, and you're wondering why you're not getting paid. And then at the same time, you're feeling frustrated because you're like, surely, me having that decade long of experience or running your creative firm or doing whatever it is that you've been doing for the past 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years should have like replaced a full-time income for you right now. But, and then there's this whole spiral of, oh my God, it's the algorithm's fault. It's AI's fault. It's all a different thing. Remember, number one rule of entrepreneurship is taking responsibility of what you get to do. And second rule of that is think like a CEO. It's a business decision. Remove our emotions from it. So what I really want you to ask yourself is where in your business right now you are focusing on vanity over the value that you can create. It's a trap that we all fall into because, as humans, we crave the belonging, we crave the acceptance, right? So when someone responds to your post, you're like, oh my God, I'm doing well. And I've seen it in my own business in the past. I thought I was doing well. I thought I was responding, engaging, connecting with people online. And later on, I realized, oh my God, they are not even the ideal clients that I want to work with. They are so far away from the ideal clients that I'm meant to work with. But I got, carried away with engagements, with likes, with shares, thinking that that's right. Right? So that's mistake number one. And mistake number two in the creator trap is you're focusing on audience over clients. You're focusing on audience and you're not focusing on the clients that's going to pay you and or having a customer journey that turns the audience into paying clients. And that is a sales system conversation. Right? And a bigger part of that is creators focus a lot on building an audience instead of solving problems for clients. And this is, I like to see as creatives, sometimes we fall into that. And I think there's also a lot of teachings in the past of you're here to entertain and inspire your audience. Again, if that is what you're called to do, similar to number one, is you're meant to just entertain people, to be a comedian, to make funny parody videos to entertain people, and you want to get paid through the Facebook creator program, this training probably is not for you. And a big assumption from building audience is if I grow big enough, eventually money will follow. Wrong. Audience is not the same as client base. Your audience might clap for you. Your audience might say this is so good. Your audience might resonate with you, but your clients pay you. And they don't pay you because of your vibes. They don't pay you because of your personality. They pay you because you are creating values in their lives based on your expertise, based on the skills that you have. And that is the foundation of a successful, growing, and thriving business. So here is also a tough love that I really want to put up for you, to all my multi-passionate, my creative misfits, my people who do a lot of things, who love learning, who basically know a lot of things and wondering why are they still struggling to build predictable and consistent income. It's not that you don't know what to do. It's not that you don't have the skills. It's just that you got to start making boring as a problem and actually commit to one different thing. And let me tell you, you can actually sell your product, create value without needing to prove how deep, how multi-passionate, and how creative you are, and just focus on the value that you create. And trust me, it's a lot easier once you have that simple process and the system. That is exactly what we teach you to install inside the 100K consulting blueprint, which you can join the waitlist via the link down below. So yeah, so we've covered mistake 1, vanity over value. Number 2, audience over clients. And number 3 is visibility over viability. So this is something that I've said from day one, is if you haven't made 5K from your business, or really if you haven't made your first 100K, because in my opinion, like your first 100K is probably the hardest like challenge threshold that you have to cross in going from an employee to an entrepreneur. And so with creators, you obsess with being visible everywhere instead of building something viable. So your goal is like, I want to get as many places as possible. I want to be on every platform as possible. And when you're thinking from this space, you think the business is the content. You think that Instagram or TikTok or YouTube is a business model. But visibility without viability leads to burnout, right? If your content, so this is the question that I like to ask my clients is, if somehow the Instagram algorithm is 100% on your favor and you go viral, what's next? Do you have a system to even capture those leads? Do you have something that actually takes that the virality audience through your business ecosystem? Do you have all the system in place that if you have a viral post goes out, it brings you extra 10 grand or 100 grand? If your answer is no, your business model is broken, your revenue model is broken. And so your focus should not be visibility. Visibility and virality should only be a focus when you have all the foundations in place, where you're not betting on this visibility to feed yourself, to pay your rent. You are not waiting for this visibility to keep your business afloat. So why consulting works is because you are turning the expertise that you already have into a business solution, into creating revenue, into creating value. So consulting installs the viability first, right? Your revenue that covers everything that you need. It provides resources, and then you can scale. You can learn into the funnel, the content, and all of that things. I know all these traps so well because I fell into them earlier on, right? I had visibility, I had audience, I had content that I spent like almost 2 years building, until I realized it wasn't even the right people that I wanted to serve with. But one thing that I did very right from day one was I learned how to create predictable revenue because of what I've learned in my blogging days. So I had the consulting as a launchpad, as a foundation to sustain me. So I was growing, and then I realized I hit a plateau, and I was like, oh, what kind of clients was I calling in? And I had to I caught myself out of it. Like I started chasing attention, like thinking that audience or connection or any form of connection or engagement online is a success metric. But am I even speaking to the ideal clients that I really want to? And I think that one thing we don't speak about enough, especially as creatives, is that you need to be very intentional with what is it that you create. You need to be very intentional and safeguard the creativity that comes through you, because without a solid direction, without a solid foundation, without a solid plan, you could find yourself putting all your energy and all your resource and time and creative flow into creating something that there's no market demand for it. And number two, you just realize it's not even what you're meant to creating, but then you're just responding to all these different things. And it's a creator's trap that we often fall into. we just kind of pick what we know. It's like, oh, like back to the story of the lady that I met at the AI event. Is I don't know what it is, but I'm just documenting myself going to AI spaces and see what that is. And why that is important is because when you start putting content out there like that, the kind of the audience that you draw up are audience who consume, and they would never buy from you. And so when you actually decide to create a product, you need to rebuild an entire audience. You need to rethink your entire strategy. Versus if you are very intentional with how you actually shape your content, if you're really intentional of what kind of clients you want to work with, and actually speak to that kind of clients, and having an end goal. And so a very one of the metrics that I like to ask myself is, how much time am I spending on content creation? It's creative, I like it, but how much does it actually move the financial needle? And one of the questions that I actually have to ask myself when I was, in this reset phase, some of you may know I gave my life to Jesus at the start of this year. So there was a lot of, restructuring in my business going on, is that, have I been actively channeling my creative problem solving skills into creating more values for my audience, for my community? Or am I just kind of sharing because it's inflow? Have I came up with new way of how I want to teach, how I want to create, to make sure that it continues to stay competitive, that it continues to stay different in an age of AI? So now I know that my voice is very unique, that I have originality, that I'm creative. But I was also putting way too much energy into a range of different things that wasn't important. Right. And even to create and design the 100K consulting blueprint was something that I never really thought about, because I have cultivated that, like, as the foundation of my business. It becomes a second nature of who I am. Like, I don't even have to think. I want to go and pitch myself, if there's an opportunity comes up, I can just go and pitch myself. And I've done that, right, with people that I've just met at a bar, and, they said that, oh, I'm looking for this. I'm like, all right, I'll send you a proposal. Or, I would see something that I'm like, oh, this is a fun project to do with. I would just do it. Right. And it took me, and then I was like, well, people needs to know this. Right. And based on the questions that I've received throughout the years, and sometimes as creative, we are so focused on what we want to create. And I do believe that we have our own creative process and being able to be in that. But then there's also the business acumen of listening to the market to see if there's a market demand there. So it's a dance that you need to dance like between the both. And this is why I'm such an advocate for consulting as a foundation, because the skills that you learn, the negotiation skills, the skills to be able to put together a high ticket offer, it's a skills that you can take with you for the rest of your career. Right. And I think that um what the question that I really have for you is, if you right now, just the top of your mind, can you be very clear on whether you're focusing on vanity or value, whether you're focusing on audience over clients, whether you're focusing on visibility or viability? And do you have a high ticket offer that you can sell straight out based on what you have learned or the experience that you have from your corporate experience? So I'm going to bring it back to my own journey. When I started, is because I was very clear on my strategic edge. I knew that I have I'm very analytical. I can spot patterns. I can read numbers. I can tell stories with numbers, which is a very, sought after and high value skills that you have, especially if you're working with high level executive, especially when you are working with CEO, right? Even if you're selling creative service, even if you're selling leadership service, as a CEO of a company, there always needs to be an ROI, even if it's intangible. You're either making them more money, saving them more money. And, for example, if you are, if you're offering, like, say, leadership program to entrepreneurs, or you are trying to sell your training or even a nutrition training to a company, it might be like increase morality or productivity of the company. How you can speak to them is, well, when your employees are happy, imagine the time saved from needing to rehire. Imagine the time lost when you could actually be working on something. So there is always an ROI in a business, right? It's just that, whether you're aware of it, maybe you haven't thought of it that way, maybe you haven't, even given the thought of how pricing strategy works, or maybe it's a positioning problem. That is everything that I have broken down and created the system for you inside the 100K Consulting Blueprint. And if you want someone to work with you, to have someone to implement that with you, and having my expertise to, help you come out with the pricing that you can get behind with, because it doesn't matter if I think that that's 10,000 value, and if you don't get behind it, if you're not convicted that you can sell that $10,000 value, then it's not going to work. Because apart from sales system, the number one rule of really, like sales, like number one rule to high conversion in sales is you have to be very convicted with what you offer. And so, in that process of building that system, in that process of getting clear on the value that you create, in that process of understanding the business solution that you provide based on all the skills that you have, which I would assume that you have done your homework from the 100K Strategic Edge playbook, that you are now very clear on what value you bring to the clients. Back to what I was saying, I was very strategic. I had, an eye for numbers, but I'm also very creative, right? So I'm not just a boring data person. I have a lot of personality. So my personality actually supports, like, it brings out the difference of, like, wow, she knows ROI. Wow, she knows that. And she's not like some data person that don't understand creativity. And if you're more towards the creative side of work, right? Like, a brand designer, so, okay, we're going to use brand designer as an example. How you can speak to higher value clients and how you can bring more value is that, well, I don't just design pages. I design pages that increases the conversion, that increases the time spent on page, or whatever metrics it is, that the very thing that you do to support the creative work that you do. So then if you're on the creative side, then now what makes you really special is that you actually understand numbers, right? And how I brought mine together is during my time in corporate, I had to manage marketing across both data and creative team, working cross-function team. So there is this like synergy, and this is why I have my 100K Strategic Edge. And one of the things that I see many, like, I think it's more of a sales problem and not actually having a clear understanding of your high ticket offer. Because how I would sell it for, in those instances is that instead of hiring 5 people in your team, you only need to hire one person that could actually help solve that much problem. And then you price it based on value, not the time you spent. Because if you can solve a problem that entrepreneur, that business owner needs 5 people to spend, and your cost, your investment is only like equivalent to 3 people. As a business owner, as a CEO, would you not hire this person? But then if you decide to, like, well, I'm going to charge by time, which, it basically not actually putting on value to all your strategies or your experience throughout the years, they're not going to argue with you, right? So all of these is what we break down inside the 100K Consulting Blueprint. And that's on the other side of all the creator trap that you are now broken free of. Okay. So now we've gone through that. We're going to go more into the numbers, into the ROI. because we've just spoken about it. And I think that the first 3 days, the 3 parts of the training series, it's more of the ideas, it's more about the identity. And I think that they're really important, that as an entrepreneur, especially in this space, in online education, in consulting, your identity, your mindset, your leadership skills, like, win 80% of the game. But for you to cross the line at being the top 1% and actually being able to create the results that you know you're here to create, we need to bring in the ROI. We need to bring in the metrics. And I don't just share those consulting as a nice idea or ROI as a nice idea. I teach it because I also have metrics, real numbers, right? And that separates you from the hype. It's not saying that hype is not good. If you are in the space of, say, PR, brand marketing, go to market marketing, hype is really important, but ultimately businesses would look at number. It would look at numbers. So whether you like numbers or not, or you're gifted with numbers but haven't actually stepped into it, that is going to help you create a sustainable business and a predictable business revenue number, because numbers are predictable. So if you want a predictable consulting model, a predictable model, then you have to speak with that. So, all right. So what I really want to share with you is why consulting is such a great model as a foundation. And I've covered that under the 100K math, right? You understand now that you don't actually need 10, you don't even need like 100 leads to create that stability in your income, in your business revenue, as opposed to your audience and that whole sales journey that has a lot of variables. Because when you are just starting out as an entrepreneur, you want to get to the results, build that foundation as quickly as possible so that you can actually get into, you know, growing and scaling the masses. So we're going to recap that again, is that when you shift from being a creator to being an advisor to being a subject matter expert, where people hire you for your experience, when people hire you for your expertise, when people hire you for the value that you've created, I just want you to actually anchor in this idea that, wow, you need to probably speak to 10, you probably need to have 10 conversations, 10 very intentional, 10 very strategic conversations with our hot zone method, which I have 83% conversion rate of. That means that out of 10 people that I speak to, eight, 8.8, about a bit over 8 of them become my paid clients. And it's not by accident. It is not by like hoping that the algorithm is going to be on my side, but actually being very intentional about it. Because I think what I really want to, paint, I think a lot of people who get into online business um, come with the idea that I need to have this massive Alex Hormozi, love his work, by the way, this inbound attraction marketing. And for those of you who aren't aware of the term, inbound and attraction marketing is where you create the content and people come to you. And that's basically what social media marketing is, what podcast, what you're watching, what I'm doing here is an attraction marketing. And with attraction marketing, it takes some time, a lot of time to test out different. There's a lot of testing and optimization required. There's a lot of like A/B testing required. It is a long process for you to like actually hit the right notes, right? And how the inbound marketing works from a buyer's journey point of view is you basically need to take someone from totally unaware of their problem, that I don't even know I have a problem, to them ready to buy. So you have to go and educate them from the bottom up. Just look at what I'm doing with the 100K Consulting Blueprints series, right? It works. It definitely works. But where you are right now, again, where you are in business, the stages you're in business, doing the right things in the right order of operations is extremely important. You want to be able to replace your full-time income with your business revenue. So if you're on six figures at your corporate job, about 8 to 10K per month with the expertise that you already have. Because inbound and attraction, it's harder for you to be in control because the factor that affects the results, most of them are not within your control. And you have to learn this, you have to have fundamentals and foundational understanding of digital marketing. And the other side of it, the other side of inbound and attraction is there is warm outreach. There is warm outreach. So warm outreach is not the same as cold DMs, right? So warm outreach is really what I teach inside the 100K Consulting Blueprint with my hot zone buyer is you know where to find people who are already ready to buy. So I'm going to paint the two picture of what I shared of inbound and warm outreach. If you're wondering if this is cold DMs, no, cold DMs is a whole different part here that we'll talk about later. So inbound, you got to take them through from they're not aware that they have a problem to slowly guiding them to know that there's a solution. With warm outreach, with consulting and like pitching your service, first of all, you got to get very clear on, what your skills are and how your skills can solve a particular problem. Once you're aware of that, you can go and target and I'm going to share what are the areas where are, the systems on how you can do it inside the 100K Consulting Blueprint. But you can go position yourself in front and have conversations with businesses who are actively looking for solutions. When the clients are already actively looking for a solution, that means that they are already willing to pay. So your job is to all right, is this client, can I solve this problem for my client? And the second part of that is, okay, are they willing to pay? Is what they're willing to pay match what I want to offer my service for? It's that simple. You don't have to educate them. You don't have to tell them that they have a problem. Although most of the time, the problem that they think they have is not the actual root problem. And that's your job as a consultant. And that actually is what allows you to charge a premium price. And this is something that I also, teach and created a very beautiful Excel spreadsheet for you inside the 100K Consulting Blueprint, where you can actually map out how would it look like in terms of how can you create the predictable revenue when you structure and package your service as such? And do you see the difference? It's like inbound attraction, you have to go to a sea of people online versus exactly where to look online. You know exactly what kind of conversations you are meant to have. So you're actually having a sharpened focus, speaking and positioning yourself in front of people who are already ready to buy. And that is the fastest way to have when you don't have a qualified audience. And that's when inbound marketing really works. So you have the inbound, which is attraction marketing, social media marketing, everything that we've learned about online marketing. And then there's the second part, which is warm outreach, which is really reaching out to the people who are already looking for solutions. And the third one is cold DMs. So cold DMs is you're just reaching out with people who don't know they want solutions. And I've never touched that, and I would probably never touch that ever. Right? So why outbound strategies is so important and why this is a proven system, not just for me, but for clients and my peers, is you skip past of needing to filter out things. You go completely straight and talk directly to people who are solution aware, decision ready buyers. And that is a really key part of this strategy, is that you need to be able to communicate and use a language that speaks directly to buyers who are solution aware and decision ready. And this is why ROI is so important, because when it comes to, and when it comes to making the decision for a lot of business owners, all right, how is this going to drive my business? And then your multi-personality, your unicorn factor, what makes you unique, that comes through in your sales process. Versus in a creator's model, you basically like, it's like you are like a circus performer. You're performing for the general population and hoping that 10% of them convert to your customers. So can you tell the difference right now of the two very different strategy that we're talking about? And a business that is stable and a business that grows sustainably has both strategy in hand. And why this is so important is because if attraction marketing is your only strategy and you have an inconsistent income, you don't have the system in place, and your quickest strategy to get more clients is to reduce your price, like Houston, we have a problem. We have a problem here. You don't have a business. You don't have a business. And we're going to fix that. Right? So to cap it all out, okay. I want you to think of it this way. I have this analogy that I really, that I would like to explain this. So warm outreach is like an arranged marriage. So you might like both parties know what the intention is. Like, all right, we're here for marriage. And then we're here to kind of like have conversations about it. Whereas like cold DMs is like you're just literally knocking on the stranger door and it's like, let's propose, let's get married and have babies. Two very different things. The cold DMs, it's like just random strangers hitting on you. And warm outreach, it's still like strangers, but you know very well that person, that business is looking for a solution. And what I want you to really spend time to see this is like how, it's like creators is a big trap. And this is very targeted. This is very focused. And this also allow you to control your pipeline. It allows you to consistently having qualified leads without hoping that your post would go viral and Facebook would pay you. This is you taking control and responsibility over your revenue stream. And I can probably already imagine like, oh, but I don't know if that's for me. I don't know if I have an offer. I don't know if what I do can command such high offer. I don't know if I can actually, like shrink all the things that I do into one offer that I'm not make for a niche. Did I just get into your mind? Did I just get into your mind? And I really want to quiet that for a moment and really want you to be very honest with yourself and see yourself as that CEO, see yourself as an entrepreneur that we have spent the last 3 days really anchoring inside of you. That there is one thing that you do particularly well. For me, it's communication. For me, it's content. It's like knowing to use right words and communication. There is one thing that you do that you are very unique. It could be operations. It could be workflow. It could be systems, like building systems for business. It could be, you are very, like you have the heart of a pastor. That's what I like to say. You're very accepting. Like there is something that you do very well and focus on that. Everything else are just the factors that make you unique, right? And I want to share this part of me, like when I was in the process of this planning for, when I was in the process of figuring it out how to replace my full-time income with my business revenue, because starting again is just not an option for me. It's just something that I've decided because I'm like, I was very clear that I have these years of experience and I have all these extra curricular activities and all the things that I do on the side, that starting from zero and getting paid like an admin rate is just not an option for me. Because I have my financial goals, I have the things that I want to do in life, and at that time was to travel the world. So I have to come up with a way in which I get to create some sort of value and some sort of solution that allows me to get paid almost the same amount of what I have created in my full-time income. And then it actually requires me to work less hours, which is 20 hours a week. And I love creating content. Like I think, I write 5 to 10,000 words a day, and that's a habit that I've cultivated a few years ago. So it's easy for me now, but at that time it wasn't easy, right? Like I had to train my muscle on that. So if you think about where you are right now in life, it might not be travel around the world. It might be you're planning for motherhood in the next couple of years, that you want to be very present with your children. So you want to be able to have a minimum, say, I'm going to use 20 hours a week because that's a good baseline. And it really helps you and really forces you to think differently on how can I create more value at a tenth of the time to deliver that. And if you want someone to work and brainstorm and implement that with you, that's what we do inside the 100K Consulting Blueprint. So definitely pop your name down in the wait list. But that is something to really think about, right? Like that's how I had to really get creative and think about it. And at that time, I was working as an influencer. I was also like doing part-time personal training. I know, completely unrelated. But when I pitch to my clients, you know, I don't go and say that, oh, I'm a personal trainer. I've like all these skills that I've had, or what are the things that I've done. I go to them, I was like, oh, like this is what you're looking for. I believe that, I also coach fitness on the side. And I think that that would be very helpful in helping with leadership or productivity with your clients. So you have to be able to translate that into their language. And as I said at the start of this video, you are not lack of skills, you're not lack of clients, and you're no longer unclear about the strategic edge that you have with the skills that you have. The problem you have is, number one, the business model, which we already solved with knowing now, well, you don't need 1,000 people on the internet to follow you, to like you. You just need 3 clients that is willing to pay for the value that you can create. And how do you get these 3 clients? You got to have 10 very targeted and specific conversations so that you can convert them into this. And how do you do that? That's exactly what 100K Consulting Blueprint really takes you through. It's the exact roadmap for that. So some of the mistake that I've seen is that most people over focus on the attraction marketing, that creators, like what we spoke about, the creator trap. Oh, I need more engagement. I need more audience. I need more of this. But there's no direct path to conversion. Sorry, there's no direct path to conversation or no direct path to conversion. So an example of that is, you might go viral today, but how many of those people can actually become your client? And this is a problem that I've seen in my clients also, is that, oh, you might have that conversation, but the conversations are people looking to be a friend, people looking that, oh, I share the same problem, but they don't see you as a solution. They don't see you as the authority whom would they want to pay for, whom they want to exchange value for. So and that is a positioning, that's a marketing issue, and you can fix that. Anything in business is fixable, right? But the thing is, the time it takes for you to really fine tune that, it takes a while and it takes resources because you need an expert to help you with. And that's the kind of work that I do with my one-on-one private clients. With where you are right now, your goal is to convert, to replace your full-time income with your business revenue. So you got to focus on what is the best solution right now, which is, okay, where can I speak to 10 people? 10 people that I know my expertise can solve their problem. And I can speak to these 10 people to figure out, to tweak, to experiment, to see my packaging, my pricing, my positioning works. And then I can tweak that. And when I have conversations with these 10 people that I really intentionally chosen and targeted through the hot zone buyer method, it is very clear from the first conversation that I'm not here to be their friend, that I'm here to offer a solution. You see the difference on like when you actually have a direct path of conversation, when that conversation is intentional, when that conversation is value added, then it completely shifts, right? And I think that's when you really start seeing your business as a business, not a fun, like a therapy room, not a fun thing. And I get it, there's this part, there might be this question of like, am I being like very transactional? Am I being very whatever it is? But you are running a business. Your business is offering a solution. Unless your very business is to be a therapy room for a lot of people, if that's not it, you're running a business, you're offering a solution, you connect, you build trust with your ideal clients, without overextending and having a direct path to conversation, which leads to conversion. So that you are not spending months creating content for people who are never going to buy. How many of you guys feel hit hard with that? Like you're just spending months creating content for people who are never going to buy, and you're wondering what's wrong with that. Maybe you need to learn more things. No, it's just a positioning thing. And once you position right, you can price right too, because positioning leads to your pricing. And that's a concept and a principle that we teach deeper inside the 100K Consulting Blueprint. Yes, I'm sharing this because this is the best product that I've created. I've designed with the intention that this is going to be the last program you need to build a solid foundation, that you actually move the needle forward in your business, that you're actually building something to last, that, this series is going to be released in September. In the next 4 months, at the remaining of 2025 is when you turn your business around, so that when you enter into 2026, you're walking on solid foundation. Then you can focus on funnels. Then you can focus on content. But you need the strong foundation. And you might think, oh, September is too late. I'm going to start in 2026. Rebuke that. I call you out on that. And why do I say that? Because in the past, like I've data to prove that, is that my business, especially the consulting side of things, most of them come through in Q4. Because, businesses have planned, they have like this, like they would have their campaign plan on how they want to roll out, and they might feel like they might fall short some sort of expertise. Social media algorithm change, AI change. So they might need the extra support. They might need the extra strategy. They might need the extra brain and perspective. And when I look back, a lot of my business comes through in November and December. And I remember there was one client that came through, that was through my personal brand, which came through on like 20 like Christmas Eve. And then we actually have a meeting, a strategy day on the 29th of December. So that was before I was saved by Jesus. So I didn't celebrate Christmas then. So it didn't really matter to me. And then the clients that you would probably hear me share a lot in my story, and what I teach extensively inside the 100K Consulting Blueprint, was how I turn a $750, yes, $750 project, a copywriting project, into a 50K a year client, and they stayed with me for 3 years. The first project that came through was around I think it was around November. No, it was around July. So I did that with them. It was just an email copywriting thing that I did for them. And then I signed another extension contract to do more copywriting for them for December, for the end of the year. And I remember that because it was my first trip to Bali, and I was like trying to find a printer to like write my proposal, because back then I used to print it out and try to scan it. Like, that was only like 2018. So, what, not too long ago. And this is what I really want you to know, that if you set your intention right, when you start seeing yourself differently, and you start seeing the possibility of like, really, I only need to speak to 10 leads. And out of that 10 leads, 3 of them convert into a full-time long-term clients. Full-time long-term clients. Actually, that's something I want to cover in this training. I wasn't planning to, but it's really important, because you only need 3 of them, and 3 of them chose to stay with you 3 months, 12 months, and with the intention to roll forward for at least a year. You have already created a predictable runway for yourself in the next 18 months. So just think about how having 3 clients for the next 12 to 18 months already signing your contract, and that you have the expertise and skills to deliver the value, not just based on your vibes. Do you feel a deep exhale in your body? Like, oh my God, wow, not having to start again from zero. Wow, not having to speak to 1,000 people that were never planning to buy. Actually being able to create content that you truly want to create from the inside. Is that not a deep exhale in your nervous system? I've said this before and I'll say it again. Like your financial stability and having a business model that you can create predictability is the greatest nervous system hack you need. You don't need more breath work. Like, there is a time and space for your personal trauma, relationship healing, but when it comes to business, system, business model, actually, knowing, not having a process, not having a roadmap that allow you to bring in premium long-term clients without chasing trends, has a predictable lead flow regardless of the algorithm, where you know exactly who to contact, where to find them, what to say, that you have both attraction and warm outbound where you can target the people, then you have a stable, a safe business model. That you don't have to guess and hope. And, I love God. I believe in Jesus and I'm all about God doing incredible things. But also, I believe there are certain skills, there are certain business acumens, there are certain systems that it's our responsibility as business owner, as entrepreneurs, as steward of the mission that we have to do. And part of that is creating safety. It's part of us to be able to create that predictability through business model, through our sales conversion system, through having a very solid high ticket offer. It doesn't mean that you have to go back to being a boring Jane. Sorry if your name is Jane, but I'm just trying to prove a point here that you have to be boring. No, your expertise, your specific solution that only you can solve, that comes from a range of things. You might know psychology. You might have experience with AI workflow. You might have had corporate experience in an agency. How can you combine that into a very specific solution? At the top of my mind, obviously I can't give precise advice without really knowing your business in detail. And that's the work that I do in my one-on-one private. And also if you decide to join 100K Consulting Blueprint, there's there's a premium version, which is called the Accelerator, which allows us to work in live implementation where you can share your stuff. We audit, we'll look through what you're doing. So back to what I was saying, psychology, your creative agency lead, or, AI workflow. It might seem like all over the place, but you can create a solution that might be around a problem, that creative service, whether it's agency or whether it's a business who needs creative agency. How can you use workflow to reduce all the mundane tasks, save cost? Your psychology degree could be used in marketing, in content, in how can you actually incorporate layer psychology, biopsychology into the work that you create for your clients. And then because you have created lead agency, which means you know how to manage project, which means you can actually deliver something, that combines all of this. There's an example of how you turn I do a lot of things into a very specific solution to a business. So you could be, you can either sell your service as a creative, you can call it creative strategist or creative workflow optimizer. Packaging, it's a name of package that explains what you do, that you actually be able to come up with very targeted, personalized communication strategy for your particular business, and you're able to create a workflow, you're able to train the AI, you're able to create an agent for that particular business, so that even after you have finished your 12 months contract with this company, they have an agent. So whatever you create, that AI agent and that marketing psychology, but two of these is already an IP level asset for the business, that even though you work with them for 12 months to develop this, they get to keep this and multiply for the years to come. So this itself, it's like at least 5 figures, if not multiple 5 figures just for this. Plus your experience as an agency lead means that when you work with the business, when you actually work with them, with the executives to develop this, you are able to actually lead with people from different teams to make sure that this is highly personalized for their business and is able to target to their clients. So that's a really great example. That is, I use that example because there was something along that lines from one of my clients that has that do multiple things and trying to come up with that high ticket offer. And I've just walked you through that process of how, like, you do a lot of different things, but how can you package one as a unique solution? And with that, you can sell it to a online education company. You could sell it to, say, a fitness company. You can sell it to even an agency owner. So, like, you see how you don't have to niche it down, but you have a very specific solution because you are a creative problem solver based on the range of things that you have. And so with that, you can now use this high ticket offer and have 10 conversations through our hot zone buyer map that we teach exclusively inside the 100K consulting blueprint, so that you can find high intent prospect who are actively looking for solutions, that are willing to pay, that has the budget to pay. 10 conversations. Even if you are new to this pitching, selling, and you're doing industry average of 10%. 83% is my own personal conversion rate, and I've been doing this for over 10 years. So experience, time compound, right? Even if you're just like super new and you're just like out of the 10, only one of them convert. So it's 10% conversion rate. And with that, what I've just shared, that solution, 5-figure solution, one conversion rate throughout the year, expand to a year, right? Say, if you're charging that project $50K a year project. I have also, if you want to know how that would look like, instead of just $50K, I would teach that inside what I call 3 client revenue stabilization. Like, how do you actually see that pricing in your business model? Again, inside 100K consulting blueprint. It's so good that you have to be in it. It's just what it is. That you can see, okay, 50K. Just imagine this. Even if you have that, spoke to 10 people, converted one, a 50K contract for the next 12 months. It's not even 100K because you only need one more or two more of these clients, but you only have this one. How different, how much more freedom, how much more stability, how much more safety you already are feeling in your body, in your brain, in like, oh my God, this is possible for me. Like, this is not like a airy vision. Maybe what you are here to speak is up here, but your business feels solid. It feels like your business could hold you. It feels like there are factors that you can control in your business, because let's be real also, there are things that only God can control, but these are the things that you can control as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. Like, these are the place where you can take ownership. And these are the things that you can implement if you want to take your time, because, time is what you have and you like to do it on your self-pace. You can take the next 4 months to really experiment with this. Or if you want someone to do with you, like what I did just now, but, actually live implementation and helping you refine that product, like put that together, like what I've just done live just now, you can join us in the accelerator. 6 weeks. 6 weeks, you get to 10 years experience of speed to actually bring forth. And you can start selling in, say in October or even November. Put it out there. Put it out there. Get data. Test it. Try it. And maybe, you might get one on Boxing Day or like 29th of December. Like, that's how I did it. And it's not rocket science. It's very systematic. And I know not sometimes, a lot of the time as creative, we look at it and go, well, it's not fun. You know what's not fun? When you don't really know when your next client's going to come through. It's not fun when you don't have consistent clients. It's not fun when you have to start from zero every single month. It's not fun when you're creating content to buyers that would never buy your product, when and I think that there's also another part of why I love consulting, and this is a very intrinsic motivation, is that I continue to do consulting because I love solving big problems. I don't want to teach someone how to build what tech you need to do to start a podcast. I like to solve big problems. And I know if you are a creative problem solver, that is an intrinsic, in a way, it's a selfish like motivation that I want to solve big problem. Why don't get paid for it and actually change the life of someone and the business? Right? So it's a win-win situation, and it forces you to think big. It forces you to to really bring forth the energy, not the energy, the experience and the expertise you have on working in these multinational companies. And you get to bring the wisdom, you get to bring the experience, the expertise you have to growing businesses, to online education businesses, to creative agencies, to entrepreneurship. Whoa, it's great. It's great. And now, even if you decide to not go ahead with 100K consulting blueprint, like the last 4 days of the 4-part series, there are so many shift and action, and you believe that you can architect in yourself and to build your business. Like, there is literally no way and no excuse as to why you can't actually replace your full-time income with your business revenue, with everything that I've teach just in this 4-part training. Of course, if you want to speed it up and actually create results before the end of 2025 and set a solid foundation, the 100K consulting blueprint and the accelerator is the place to be. And I also know it's not for everyone. That's why I create this training series, so that it can reach as many people as possible. But I didn't start with this. I started with consulting. And I also decided to not go on with my blogging and influencer. It's cool, party with Paris. Like, all this stuff is cool, but does it pay me? No, it doesn't. It's nice to have. But like I said before, I know creators with 100, 200,000 followers, and they're not making the money that they want to make. And they're probably waitressing at a cafe or something like that. And unless you have a trust fund that I don't know about, or an inheritance that I don't know about, financial stability is a big part of what you need to actually bring forth the vision, the mission that God has placed inside of you. And I've seen and I've spoken to a lot of really mission purpose driven entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, hoping that, I want to bring forth one day, I want to be able to do that. But the whole point of me sharing this also is to make sure that financial stability and having that financial resource is not going to be a hindrance of the bigger vision that you want to bring to life. Because let me tell you, to write, to speak for a living, it's great, but it's not a walk in the park. It takes time to get to that level. If you don't want to sell your soul, if you don't want to do anything that goes against, what for me, what Yahweh and what Jesus said, then there has to be the right thing in the right order. There has to be system. And it's okay if you take a step back and go all right, for the next 20 years, I get to slowly roll out this vision. What I need to do now is to be able to stand on a firm foundation, on a solid ground. And that changes everything. And so while other creators are obsessing over engagement rates, you start closing and working with clients who are actually working with you long term. And while influencers are trying to get brand collaborations, you can start, landing deals through the personal brand that you're building alongside with the consulting clients that you have. So instead of getting exhausted from creating content that your buyers, that your audience were never going to buy anyways, you can start growing your consulting practice, learn from expert, start creating an audience who actually want to learn from you, who actually want to pay for your service. Then not only you have replaced your income with your business revenue, but you get to scale beyond 100K and you're not scaling chaos. And that is the power of building a business on consulting as a foundation, as a launch pad. And the final part that I really want to talk about is personal brand. Is personal brand, and it's not personal brand from a space of creator space, or not personal brand from creator influencer model, like your cloud, right? I think that, people think that, oh, if you have all these testimonies and all the thing, all these sunshine and thing. No, we're going to talk about proper brand dividends and the relationship that you form. Because the strongest early stage growth level that you have is you. And that's the final part of what I mean when you have that conversation to convert to speak to like to convert that 10 conversations you have into clients. Is that your strongest growth level, especially at the early stage, is you. Not ads, not funnels, you. Not your content, but your reputation and your network and your personal network. I've met a lot of great people through online, but nothing comes through your personal network, right? Till today, I already have a strong online presence. I have built systems in my backend in my online education company. And even though my business is now global and online, most of my best fit leads still come through my personal brand. Because when I built the foundation of consulting, I also anchored my growth in relationship first. And I treated every connection as a relationship, not a transaction. Right? So I started off with that. And I also want to like expand on that is that a personal brand that builds first on consulting is not just visibility. It really brings in the best clients that I've had. It brings some long-term like business relationships that turn into personal relationships and opportunities that you can't buy your way into. Like opportunities that you can't even pay to get it. So I've had clients who have hired me, after they've moved on from the business that I have first dealt them, like they were the marketing manager from here. And as they move companies, they continue to reach out to me, brought me back in. And that's lifetime brand equity. And also it's because I know the value of work that I've created, the delivery that I've created, because I focus on retention, long-term client relationship, because I focused on building, like having personal relationship. And that's when your unicorn factor, that's when your multi-passionate really comes into place in maintaining those relationships. So that even though you don't see the fruit now, but years down later, when they go out, they move companies, they start their own business, they can't reach out to you to hire you. And I've also been invited to mastermind rooms where, there are like some of the most brilliant minds with 7 to 9 figure founders, founders who have exited their company. And those are the rooms that you can't even pay to get in. It's because I know, like I got invited because I contributed some ideas, I contributed something, I added some value that I don't even remember. And I landed 5 figures of joint venture partnership through brand reputation because someone knew me. Oh, I would make the introduction to Adeline. All of these social capital, brand capital, no pitch, no funnel, recognition. And these things are what lasts forever. These things last beyond 24 hours of stories, right? And I was hired for paid speaking engagement for Kotra through that, which is a career trade investment promotion agency. It's like a start. It's similar to like, the Y Incubator or Techstars in America, right? To be recognized by a global trade body for my expertise. And later on, consulting was my business model for like at the start for probably like the first 3 years where 90% of my revenue comes from consulting. And now it's kind of like probably about 50%. And then the remaining 50% is, through my online education company. Right. And that is not by accident. That is by design. Right. It's like, it's not likes, it's not leads, it's not views, but it's a relationship where people like it's like a referral system that goes beyond, and those kind of thing brings in opportunities. And as you grow and expand deeper into your purpose, into your mission, into what God has really brought you and created you to deliver to the world, as you really bring forth those vision and really bringing that to life, you have your business foundation and these brand equity, these personal relationships is what would actually bring forth your next level growth. an actual, like, true influence that you can't buy, you can't, hack your way into. You can't just go like, well, this is my visibility. This is just my visibility. And so when you start seeing personal brand as that way, like starting off as the very foundation of personal brand, and then of course you would have the online personal brand because that is also part of your scaling strategy, or part of your business growth strategy. And so with that, I would, I focus on building relationships, and then I would focus on one long form and one short form platform to layer it all, right? Because long form platform is where authority compounds its show thinking, and then short form is just this, to multiply it. Just for example, when you watch this training all the way till the end, up until here, you and I, we have deeper trust, and you have deeper trust in my ability to help you, in helping you grow your business, in replacing your business income, sorry, your personal income with your business revenue. And you trust me in helping you, maybe drafting out your entire business plan for your next level growth, because now we have this long form, like, interaction. Right? So you see, it's layered, right? I've always said consulting is not the end goal. It is the foundation. It is the launch pad, but it's a very important one. And I can tell you, like, actually becoming a consultant and selling my expertise and creating value in that way has made me a better speaker. It has made me a better thought leader. It has made me create better content, because when you can think like a consultant, we can think in terms of value added and creating solutions. What you write, it's not just there to get the vibe. It's not just there to get the hype. I've done that too. Like, I know exactly how to, like, really become really polarized, and it's not something that I'm proud of. The good thing is I have solid foundation that I can come back to. That I didn't just build a business of hype, of just like being polarizing, because that would have sucked, of like needing to start over. Right? So you see the layer. You have consulting, you have the relationship as personal brand, and then you layer, in your long form platform, your short term platform, and how your consulting expand into online education, and then how it just stacks on. Right? So it's like there is a right time, right things to do in the right order. And we really are doing, this is equity. That this is equity. So every content you put out, everything that you share out, it's very intentional. It has a purpose. It serves to add value. And for it, like, this is a really good example. Even if you don't end up working with me, or maybe you decide to work with me 3 years down the road, but right now I can very confidently say that you have walked away from this training series with probably a lot of value that you never would have not have gotten anywhere else. And what allowed me to do that is consulting as my launch pad. So why consulting? Why I'm so passionate about this, and not just courses or even coaching or even content? Because how I see it is consulting is the only model that pays your rent first and scale later. It really allows you to replace your full-time income with business revenue, with the expertise that you already have, with the 100K value that you already have. Consulting gives you this predictable income so that you're not building from survival. It pays for your thinking so that you're not just doing and selling for your time. It compounds into brand equity that drives different kind of partnership, put you into a room that you can't even pay to get in. And consulting gives you the freedom to build education, to build courses, to build media, to get into your creative expression without needing to depend on them for survival. Because I don't want you to be a creative. I don't want you to be a starving artist, right? I don't want you to take all these risks to be an entrepreneur and ended up becoming like, getting paid way less than what you did in your full-time job. And the creator influencer model is very fragile. One algorithm shift and you're invisible. You're not building asset. You're literally like just throwing your energy and time, creating content into a black hole. And content and algorithm is not the enemy here. What I invite you to ask yourself is, what responsibility can I start taking back in my business? What control can I start taking back in my business in how I show up as a CEO? And to sum it all up, like, consulting is durable, and one client relationship can fund 6 months of breathing space. And you do it in a way that you can sleep peacefully at night and knowing that you have solved a really big problem. I've broken it down for you. You see exactly how that's broken down. And this is why the 100K consulting blueprint exists. This is why I design it. And this is why I design it in a way that you can apply and implement straight away, to help experts like yourself, multi-passionate experts like yourself, install this foundation, a 100K per year consulting business built on trust, built on leverage, built on pricing power, and so that you can actually expand into scalable education. You can explore your creative expression without gambling your rent money on algorithms or like just trying to scale on vibes. And here's the truth I really want you to remember, is that content is meant to be leverage and consulting is a foundation. Followers are visibility and clients are viability. Engagement is noise without great intention, and equity is wealth. Equity is wealth, and that is your long-term goal. So if you want a business that really survives the algorithm shift, what I really like, consulting is your next 100K. Like, this is how you get to really build a predictable 100K machine in your business. This is not a theory. This is not a hype. This is a proven system. And it's not just my story. It's a possibility for yours because it's a system that you can apply what you have, and you have experienced the entire process. So if you're ready to stop chasing vanity metrics, you're ready to give up that creator influencer model and start building a solid foundation that gives you a financial stability that no nervous system practice can actually ever bring, and start building equity, your next obvious step is the 100K consulting blueprint. And so if you want to join them now, I would, if you listen to this training before our launch period, which is around the 13th of September 2025, then join the waitlist down below. And if you're listening to this in the midst of our launch period, which is the 13th of September to the 22nd of September, you can just join directly. And if you want to have me as your co-pilot, if you want live implementation, if you already have the ideas, you have already built basically what we've just spoken about, and you want an expert to review that for you, to help you refine, to help you build your very own consulting blueprint, and you want to do it in 6 weeks so that you can actually build this model and start getting paid and, building the runway for your 100K year in 2026, then you definitely want to be in the accelerator. All the details will be down in the show notes below, or in the comments below, down below if you're watching this on YouTube. And you would receive all the information you need in your email. So if this has shifted something like on an identity on a visceral level, or if this has shifted you completely on how you see business, and most importantly, if you're committed to building your 100K runway for 2026 and beyond, drop me an amen on Instagram, or shout out amen where you are, and just really commit to that. Decide that this is where you're going. This is where you're committing all your energy into. And I cannot wait to hear your success stories. Thank you for joining me in this next 100K series. And looking forward to your success stories. Thank you for tuning in to your next 100K. If this sparked clarity, you are exactly who we built the 100K consulting blueprint for. This is where creative experts, strategic thinkers, and multi-passionate professionals finally get paid for their perspectives, not just their output. We help you install a revenue engine, price your thinking, and turn your range into a business that grows with you. Inside the blueprint,
You would learn how to turn your corporate and creative experience into a high-ticket consulting offer, build predictable monthly revenue, and productize your brain without the algorithm, burnout, and content treadmill. Whether you are a former agency lead, ex-corporate strategist, coach, consultant, or creator with business depth, this is your launchpad. So, how can you take the next step? If you are listening during launch, simply head to the link down below and enroll now. Spots are limited and we do not play the scarcity game twice. And if you're listening to this when enrollment is still close, simply join the waitlist to get early access and unlock behind the scenes resources to start building now. You can join the waitlist through the link down below as well. Because we all know the next version of your business does not come from posting more. It comes from thinking like a consultant and